Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to show you how to budget, including a real-life example of someone who earns $100,000 a year. Now if you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Alex and I'm a certified public accountant. I think budgeting is one of the most important concepts to personal finance, so I believe this is a great starting point for anyone looking to reduce their spending and save more money. So these are some assumptions that we're going to make for our budget walkthrough. Now this person is going to make $100,000 in salary. They're going to be unmarried, so in other words, they are single for tax purposes. They have no dependents, and they're taking the standard deduction. The budget that we're about to go through is what's known as a zero-based budget. Essentially, all that means is that if you take all the inflows of money, in other words, your income, and you subtract all your outflows, in other words, your expenses and savings, you should have $0 left over. Now, I believe this is a very effective way of budgeting because it gives every dollar a task or a purpose. So let's get right into the budget. We're going to start with the inflows, and this will all be broken down into monthly, yearly, and percentage basis. Now, this person has a $100,000 salary, and that comes out to around $8,333 a month. Now, keep in mind, this is their gross salary. This is not their net income. Their net income would be after taxes and other deductions, which we'll get into shortly. But their gross amount is that $100,000 worth of income, again, around $8,300 a month. Next, let's get right into outflows. Now, the first outflow is for our savings and emergency fund, and this is around $632 a month. Now, I put this line item first in our budget for a very important reason, and that's following the personal finance concept of pay yourself first. Now, before I describe pay yourself first, let me describe what most people do. Most people, typically, they receive their income in the form of paychecks or other types of income, and then they pay for all their bills and all their other expenses, and then they try to just save money with whatever's left over at the end of the month. Now, unfortunately for a lot of people, there might not be any money left over at the end of the month. Either they get carried away with spending or their bills are too high, and so they don't actually have any money left over to put into savings. Now, this is sort of a psychological trick. By paying yourself first and putting the money towards savings right from the beginning, that helps ensure that a portion of your income gets allocated to savings right from the beginning. So this is a very important line item, and I put it first for a good reason. Now, the next line item is for a traditional 401k contribution. Now, this typically comes right out of your paycheck if your employer offers a 401k account. And for this employee, they're putting in 6% of their yearly salary for their 401k contribution. Now, later on, we'll see that their employer is actually offering an employer match on some of their contributions. So we'll get into that later, but for now, the employer portion is 6%, or in other words, $6,000 a year. Now, the next line item is for a Roth IRA. Now, a Roth IRA is a very powerful retirement account. It stands for an individual retirement account. And the Roth part of the retirement account means that once you put the money in, it grows tax-free, whether that's dividends or price appreciation on, if it's invested in stocks, bonds, or other funds. Now, it's totally tax-free if you hold that within the account until you're at least 59 and a half years old. So a Roth IRA is extremely powerful to help grow your investments and to save for retirement. Now, the maximum you can contribute to a Roth IRA changes each year, but for 2024 and 2025, it's around $7,000 a year, which comes out to around $583 per month. So the next line item is probably everyone's least favorite, which is federal income tax. Now, for this individual with the tax situation that we went over earlier and with their modest 401k contributions, they should pay around $12,521 a year, or in other words, a little bit over $1,000 a month in federal income tax. Now, if they're a W-2 employee, this should come directly right out of their paycheck. Now, another form of taxes is what's called FICA taxes. And this is, if you've ever seen on your paychecks, Social Security or Medicare, those are both FICA taxes. This comes out to around $637 a month from their paycheck. And this should automatically get deducted from your paycheck if you're a W-2 employee. The next factor we have to look into is state income tax. Now, this could vary widely from state to state. Some states have much higher state income taxes. This example here is roughly what you'd pay in Virginia based on these assumptions. And also note that some states don't even have state income tax. So this amount could vary widely based on that. The next item in our budget is for housing. Now, this could be your rent or your mortgage, and we set this at $1,800 a month. I believe this is a fairly modest amount, and it could vary widely based on the cost of living area that you live in. Now, some ways that you can save on housing is to try to get roommates, maybe living a little bit further away from the city. More rural areas typically have lower rent and lower cost of living areas. Now, you do have to balance this with work and commute and other transportation considerations. But anything you can do to reduce your housing, because housing is usually one of the biggest expenses in people's budgets. So for this, we have $1,800 a month, which comes out to a little bit over $21,000 a year. Now for utilities, we have $250. We're including in this everything like water, electricity, heat, internet, cell phone, things like that. Now, a lot of times it's very difficult to reduce this line item in the budget, but sometimes I've found that if you call and sort of negotiate with the utility companies or with your cell phone companies, they are willing to either hold your rates steady or lower you or give you ideas for certain discounts. So it can't hurt to ask, and sometimes by calling you can try to cut this down a little bit each month, which really adds up. Now, the next two categories are groceries and transportation. So for groceries, around $400 a month. Now, I actually think groceries is not necessarily a category that you should try to cut down on too much. Essentially, I think the more you spend on groceries, sometimes the less you spend on going out to eat or eating out at restaurants. And typically, it's a lot cheaper to eat food that you buy at the grocery store than you do at like a restaurant, for example. So I think groceries is an area where you can sort of splurge a little bit more, get the foods that you like, try to go pretty often. I try to go about once a week. And I think this $400 is a good amount for, a single person to spend on this salary. Now, transportation, this could vary widely based on, if you have a car payment and gas prices and your car insurance rates. It varies widely based on your age and where you live. I know as I've gotten older and had a better driving record, I've been able to take off money and save on car insurance. So any which way that you can reduce your transportation is really big in this area. Now for health insurance, again, this will vary widely based on your employer if they're paying a portion of your health insurance. I've had employers that pay a large portion of the health insurance, whereas my portion is very small each paycheck. But I looked up the average was around this $150 amount for a single person with no dependents. Now, next we have dining out and entertainment. Now, for dining out, this could include going out to eat or getting coffee or even going out for occasional drinks with your friends. And then entertainment, this could be some modest, movie tickets or streaming services, any other types of entertainment here. Now, I think it's very important to put fun things in your budget so that you account for them and so that you have room for having fun and living a little throughout your life. Now, travel, we have $250 a month in here. Now, this amount could vary, month to month. Some months you could blow right past this and have a lot more for travel. And then other months you could spend next to nothing on travel. But I think this, $250 amount on average per month is, pretty realistic. And then clothing and hygiene, I'm also including haircuts in here. And then clothing, I don't typically buy clothes every month, but some months I'll spend much more than this $150 amount. So I think on average, realistically, roughly around 150 is a good amount. And then this, last but not least, this miscellaneous category. Now, this $500 amount for miscellaneous, that might sound high, but I believe it's really important to have this miscellaneous category and to sort of give yourself a buffer, because in case you overspend in any of the other categories, this buffer can kind of help you balance out your budget so that you're not spending too much overall. Because at the end of the month, it's really about your totals that you're spending. It doesn't. I mean, for tracking purposes, it's good to break it down by categories. But really, it's the most important factor is just your overall total spending. So by having this $500 buffer of miscellaneous category, this could be spent on anything that you like buy on Amazon, or anything you buy for fun, or something that just doesn't necessarily fit into the other categories that you have available. I think it's really important, because if you don't have a place to put it, or you don't have a buffer built into your budget, then you're constantly going to blow past your budget each month. And I think that's just going to lead to you getting discouraged and give up. And, we want you to be realistic and to create a game plan and to just make slow and steady improvements each month. It's not about being perfect. It's about just making small improvements wherever you can. So, after we've gone through all those categories, I think it's really important to highlight some key concepts that I included in the budget, but I'd like to talk about in a little bit more depth here. So the first, like we mentioned, is to pay yourself first. Now, I would suggest trying to do this automatically, whether this is like an automatic transfer from your checking to savings account, or you can make this automatic by changing your direct deposit with your employer. Now, you can set it so that they send a portion of your income to one account and then a portion to another account, such as like a savings account. So I think by getting this out of the way early ensures that you allocate a portion of your income to savings, and you're not just saving whatever's left over at the end of the month. Because as we mentioned before, sometimes psychologically you could spend down all the money that is available, and then you don't have anything left over for savings. So I think this paying yourself first concept is extremely key. And then also I would recommend, now each company is different with their 401k plans and what they offer, but it's pretty common for employers to offer 401ks and to also have a company match. So what that means is if you contribute a portion of your money to your 401k, they might match a percentage. It could be 100%, 50%, 25%, things like it varies widely based on the company. But whatever their matches, you want to maximize and get that however you can, because essentially the company match is on top of whatever they're paying you for income. So you could essentially think of it as like free money. And you always want to take advantage of this. Plus, it's going into retirement accounts that you can use later on and invest and hopefully grow with compound interest. So I think this is key to take advantage of your full company match on your 401k. Now, next is to just make adjustments as needed. So, for instance, like a budget is a forward-looking plan for how you'd like to spend money the next month. But you can also look retrospectively to your spending tracker, which is basically your budget, but the real life results of your budget. So I think if you're spending too much, or you're spending too much in certain categories, you don't have to make drastic changes all at once. Just try to save a little bit of money here and there, make cuts where you can in certain categories. And if you're not hitting your savings goals or your retirement goals like you'd like to be, then just making these small incremental improvements can really help you out in the long run. Because at the end of the day, a budget is just a tool to help you track your spending and to help you be accountable really to yourself. Because you don't have to share this budget with anyone else besides yourself. So if you notice that you're spending too much or you're not saving enough, just by making small improvements and gradual improvements, that will really add up, at the end of the year. And then my next tip is to use a high yield savings account. Now, not all savings accounts are the same. A lot of bank accounts, you might be surprised, they pay little to no interest on their savings account. So even if you hold money in their savings accounts, they won't really pay you out any interest. But there are a lot of high yield savings accounts that will pay you around roughly like 3 to 4% right now. And so you definitely want to take advantage of that, and you don't want to necessarily just have it in any savings account that's not paying you interest. You definitely want to utilize those high yield savings accounts. Last but not least, just make sure those savings accounts have FDIC insurance and a competitive interest rate. Interest rates fluctuate all the time, but if you notice certain banks, constantly pay a high savings account rate, then I would just stick with them, and because that they're typically going to be towards the top end of whatever the competitive interest rate is at the time. And so from our budget example earlier, now let's go through an entire savings summary of what this person saves both in their savings account and in their retirement accounts. So this person has, obviously the $100,000 of salary, and then in, pure cash savings, could be called savings account or emergency fund. They're saving, roughly $632 a month in savings, which is great because the other accounts that we're about to show are retirement accounts and investment accounts, which are sort of more locked up and inaccessible. So I think it's very important to have like cash on hand or, cold hard cash that's readily available if you need it quickly. And that's what this savings account is really useful for. And then next, as we mentioned earlier, the traditional 401k contribution. Now, in this example, if they contribute 6%, their company matches 3%, so half of their contribution. So they're getting the full company match and putting in 6% of their salary to their 401k. And then they're also opening an IRA, an individual retirement account outside of work. And this is, and they're maxing that out each year, which is roughly $583 a month. And this is great because once you put the money in, it grows tax-free. So you can take it out when after you're 59 and a half, and all the growth is completely tax-free, which is very powerful. And then the employer contribution on the 401k is that 3% company match, which comes out to around $250 a month. So there we have it. There's a sample budget walkthrough of someone who earns $100,000 a year. Thank you so much for watching, and please take care.